Buenos días a todos nuestros invitados especiales, conferencistas y público en general que nos acompañan en Colombia. Good afternoon to our special guests, speakers, and attendees in South Africa and the rest of the world. My name is Ivan Mendoza Benitez, Commercial Attaché of the Embassy of Colombia in South Africa, and I would like to welcome all of you to the webinar Trade Opportunities between Colombia and South Africa for the Economic Recovery. Today, I am honored to be your moderator, and I am glad to inform that we have more than 350 people attending this webinar from more than 12 countries around the world. Before I officially open this webinar, I would like to explain a little bit the structure of this event. First of all, I will introduce one by one our speakers. After each presentation, Ambassador of Colombia in South Africa, Carlos Barahona Niño, will ask a general question to each speaker. Afterwards, we will present one successful case of South African company with operations in Colombia. Then we will open a Q&A session from the public. You are more than welcome to use the chat for posting your questions. However, we will also like to hear from our audience. Please let us know from where you are connecting and why is your interest, your main interest to be here with us. Dear attendees, this webinar is jointly organized by the Bogota Chamber of Commerce, also the Western Cape Tourism Trade and Investment Promotion Agency, WESGRO, and the Embassy of Colombia in South Africa, with the support of ProColombia and Invest in Bogota, who are our hosts today. Special thanks to all the teams. Having said that, please let's welcome our first speaker, His Excellency Carlos Andrés Barahona Niño, Ambassador of Colombia in South Africa, who will give us some welcoming remarks. Ambassador Barahona, welcome.
Buenos días in Colombia, good afternoon in South Africa. I'm delighted to join this webinar for this immensely important and timely discussion on the COVID-19 economic recovery. I strongly believe Colombia and South Africa can build bridges and bring better opportunities to all of us. The COVID-19 crisis is acute and immediate, but the economic crisis is equally critical. The two crises are clearly interlinked. Because the scale of and nature of the COVID-19 policy decisions being made now will crucially affect economic outcomes far into the future. So the pandemic adds to the urgency of addressing it. Economic recovery from the crisis is to be sustainable. If our world is to become more connected, we must do everything in our power to promote our economic recovery. Colombia had made a good economic and social progress. Due all of these programs, on 25 May 2018, Colombia was invited to become a member of the OECD. In early these years, Colombia economic outlooks were so favorable. We were so happy and thrilled. Our economy was expected to grow at 3.6 according to the International Monetary Fund. Unemployment rate was 9.8. Foreign direct investment were also on the rise. But COVID-19 changed our life, our daily routines, also changed all the economic outlooks and put us in an unfortunate situation. Here I would like to share with you a thought. Las dificultades nos producen retos y los retos nos ayudan a cambiar y encontrar posibilidades nunca vistas. Cada dificultad nos invita a innovarnos y replantear nuestro futuro. It translates that difficulties produce us as challenges, and challenges help us to change and find possibilities never seen before. Every difficulty invites us to innovate and rethink our future. I believe that we can put out a short note with the suggestions for ways in which our two countries can recover the economy. Colombia and South Africa have almost the same size in terms of population and territory. Both countries also have two oceans. There are so many cultural and socioeconomic similarities between our countries that we should take into consideration when we want to do business. Let me highlight some key priorities. First, develop an ambitious medium-term bilateral trade. This with the support of all stakeholders who are in the vanguard here by setting ambitious targets in doing business. We need to intensify our commerce, tourism, and investment sector. Second, promote direct new investment towers, technologies, and contribute to now enhanced revenue needs. The world is going to the fourth industrial revolution. Third, promote a just economic transition under a private-public partnership. That means assisting vulnerable households, workers, regions, and trade-exposed companies. Four, coordinate with others to stabilize the economic system. We need to go well beyond our limits and borders. One way or the other, I strongly believe that our country needs to work together to scale up economic recovery in an equitable and effective manner. And fifth, but no least, we need to promote a cultural industry or orange economy. The pandemic has proven us that we can live without a car, without a lot of clothes, or without expensive belongings. But COVID 19 has proven us that we need culture in our life music, entertainment, movies, and it's there where the cultural and creative industry will play a key role for the future generations. Let me end by emphasizing that it's time to act, especially with small and medium enterprise. The decisions we take now will shape our economies. I will welcome the opportunity to work together with all of you. To conclude, please allow me to thank Cámara de Comercio de Bogotá and the Western Cape Trade and Investment Promotion Agency, Westgroup, for accepting our challenges as an embassy to bring our two countries with this seminar. Also to Invest in Bogota for being our host today. And special thanks to Flavia Santoro, President of ProColombia, for honoring with her presence today. Thank you very much. Reale Boja, muchas gracias.
Thank you, Ambassador Carlos Barahona, for your important words of encouragement during these times. Ladies and gentlemen, now I am highly honored to introduce our next speaker, Ms. Flavia Santoro Trujillo, President of ProColombia. She's lawyer of Javeriana University in Bogota. She has a master's degree in insurance law and has a great experience in the development and management of institutional relations with the private sector. Through her current role as a president of ProColombia, Ms. Santoro is committed to promoting exports, foreign direct investment and tourism for Colombia, and strengthening international ties that bring Colombia closer to new business opportunities, like in this case with South Africa. So please, let's welcome Ms. Flavia Santoro, who will speak about potential sectors, Colombia, South Africa. Bienvenida.
Gracias. I would like to begin by thanking the Ambassador of Colombia in South Africa, Mr. Carlos Andrés Barahona. I would like also to thank Mr. Mateo Jaramillo, Director of Health Cluster at the Vice Presidency of Shared Value and Competitiveness of the Bogota Chamber of Commerce. Mr. James Mill, Head of Investment Promotion of the Western Cape Tourism Trade and Investment Promotion Agency, Westgrove. Mr. Denan Cooney, Head of Trade Promotion of the Western Cape Tourism Trade and Investment Promotion Agency, Westgrove. Ms. Luisa Fernanda Mesa, Foreign Investment Promotion Manager of Invest in Bogota, Zach Bard, Managing Director at Westphalia Limited, and you, Mr. Ivan Mendoza, Commercial Attaché, Embassy of Colombia in South Africa. And of course, I would like to thank the audience connected today to this webinar. Good morning to all of you. We greatly appreciate the interest that South Africa is showing in Colombia. As part of the government and as part of the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Tourism of Colombia, ProColombia promotes our country as a leading destination for foreign direct investment, international tourism, and as a world-class provider of non-mineral exports. We strongly believe Colombia is a success story, and we want you to be part of it. Colombia enjoys solid fundamentals to sustain the argument. In terms of foreign direct investment, our government understands that foreign capital is a key enabler of growth and development for our country, and that we will have a key role in the economic recovery once we have overcome the current situation. I would like to mention political and economic stability, a strategic geographical location, skilled workforce, a strong innovation ecosystem, and a dynamic growing economy. We have certainly given the world good reasons, like these ones that I have just mentioned, to believe in our country. As the ambassador also mentioned, recently Colombia officially became the 37th member of the OECD, joining Mexico, joining Chile from Latin America in this select group of countries. Colombia also enjoys favorable ratings from the three most important rating agencies in the world, S&P, Fitch, and Moody's. In fact, some few weeks ago, Moody's confirmed Colombia's Baa2 rating with a stable outlook and a level above investment grade. But along with that, our country is the third largest recipient of foreign investment in Latin America and is among the 30 countries which receive the greatest amount of investment worldwide. Colombia has never been greater, as last year we recorded a historic level of capital inflows to Colombia in terms of foreign direct investment. This statement that I'm mentioning to you right now is supported by the 25% year-over-year increase of incoming international capital during 2019. And in the first quarter of 2020, non-mining foreign direct investment reached over $2.4 billion, representing a 23% increase as compared to 2019. Moreover, our government has developed a red carpet strategy, which includes a comprehensive package of institutional, legal, and financial actions that give us the necessary tools to offer investors timely and effective attention. We seek to continue moving forward on a growing path as we overcome the global pandemic. According to the International Monetary Fund, also mentioned by the ambassador, Colombia's economic forecast for 2020 continues to be one of the best at the regional level, even at this juncture. For Latin America, the forecast is for an average decrease of 9.4%, and that of Colombia is 7.8%. For 2021, we expect a rebound in the economy. According to the International Monetary Fund, next year, Colombia will grow 4%, while according to the World Bank estimates, in 2021, we will grow 3.6%. We have identified investment opportunities for South African companies in our country in sectors such as tourism, infrastructure, agribusiness, and financial services. But in terms of trade, Colombia is one of the best connected countries in the region, which makes it a strategic platform for international trade in a context of supply chain disruption. Moreover, we are hardworking and talented people. Colombia is ready to supply the US market and the South African markets and all the markets with some of the goods and services produced by experienced Colombian hands. At ProColombia, we work to make sure that our products take over showcases around the world. In fact, we are working together with Colombian companies to explore the African market and identify opportunities for them. I would like to highlight the success story of Aldor. Aldor is a Colombian confectionery company that reached the South African market in 2010, and in 2014 was named the coolest brand by South African magazine Sunday Times. When it comes to the South African market, we have identified some opportunities for Colombian products, such as confectionery, such as coffee, furniture, home furnishings, extracts, pigments and paints, essential oils, among others. Colombia is certainly moving forward in the path of strengthening its trade relations with South Africa. And we have witnessed an increased interest in Colombian exporters in this exciting market. At ProColombia, we are ready to take part of this process. Back in January of 2019, along with the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Tourism and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we launched a strategy called Conectados, translated meaning we are connected, in order to promote Colombia outside our borders in a more strategic way. The strategy has successfully paid off, as we have joined forces with Colombian embassies in several regions to share with the world the best opportunities to invest in Colombia and our offer of high-quality goods and services. Let me share with you one final message. We are certain that Colombia means a great opportunity for South African buyers and investors. South Africa is a market that we definitely want to explore. By joining efforts with our embassy in South Africa, led by our ambassador Barahona, and allies like the Bogota Chamber of Commerce and Westgrove, we are certainly getting closer to that goal. Please count on ProColombia. With our DNA of kindness and effectiveness for which we are known, we are ready. We are ready to assist you in any requirements you may have. We are moving forward with confidence in the future and a strong commitment for Colombia. Thank you.
Thank you, Flavia. It's a pleasure to have you here with us. Thank you for your time, for your cooperation, and thanks to all your team. They have been a really good work with us. I would like to ask you, how is Colombia dealing with the economic crisis, and what are your expectations about when the economic crisis finishes, when the pandemic ends?
Thank you, Ambassador. These indeed are challenging times, but as you know, Colombia is taking all the measures required to guarantee both the safety of its citizens and the economic recovery of the country. But in addition to that, to the fundamentals that I just mentioned, there are some other facts that allow us to be optimistic for the future. Let me give you an example. For example, when the pandemic reached our country, we designed a poll to consult 229 international companies operating in Colombia about their interests to remain in our country. And we had a massive response. 99.6% of them said that they still see Colombia as a safe, as a strategic destination for their investments. But on the other hand, as you know, along with the Vice President Marta Lucía Ramírez and with the Minister José Manuel Restrepo, a few weeks ago, we launched an impactful and effective economic activation plan for the trade, industry, and tourism sectors under the government strategy commitment for Colombia. This strategy, what features is an incentive plan with very specific measures that will allow Colombia to stand out as a regional leader in terms of attracting foreign direct investment and as a leading supplier of goods and services for the world. This includes one main goal, which is to attract foreign capital that is based, I would like to mention 3 pillars: facilitation tools, nearshoring incentives, and strategic sectoral and regional measures. But in terms of exports, also we have 3 pillars, Ambassador. Exports of services based on knowledge, strengthened of e-commerce. E-commerce is a great opportunity that we are looking forward and work very hard on it, and taking advantage of new trade opportunities. So as global companies consolidate and diversify their regional supply chains, Colombia will continue proving that to be an ideal nearshoring location. Supply chains are getting shorter, as you know. Great multinationals are looking for suppliers closer to their consumers, and this is a great opportunity to our country. So we are ready to take on this great opportunity to our strategic geographical location, our resources, and our human talent, and this government that is friendly with investors.
Thank you so much, Flav.
Thank you, Ambassador. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much to Ms. Flavia Santoro, President of ProColombia, for presenting us the potential sectors. And also thank you so much, Ambassador Barahona, for the question. It was very important to know how Colombia is dealing with the economic crisis from the pandemic. So dear attendees, let's welcome to our next speaker, also from Colombia. And I do welcome Mr. Mateo Jaramillo. He is the Director of Health Cluster at the Vice Presidency of Shared Value and Competitiveness at the Bogota Chamber of Commerce. He is lawyer with postgraduate degrees in international business law and political management and negotiation, with more than 14 years of service experience in the public, private, and business associations sectors. And I do welcome Mateo Jaramillo for his presentation. Bienvenido.
Ivan, thank you for your kind introduction. I would like to start by extending a warm greeting to my fellow speakers from Westgrow, ProColombia, Invest in Bogota, and the representatives from South African and Colombian companies who will be joining us today. I would also like to thank the Colombian Embassy for making this meeting possible and establishing this communication channel between our development and promotion agencies. In the same way, I would like to greet our audience and thank everyone for joining in. With that said, in the following minutes, I will make a brief presentation of the areas of opportunity in our region, which are framed in the competitiveness and innovation agenda of Bogota, Cundinamarca. Please let me know if you're seeing the presentation. So, accounting for roughly a fifth of Colombia's population, Bogota is one of the largest cities and markets in Latin America. In the last few years, and with the help of the city's public, private, and union sectors, we have been implementing one of the most ambitious productive development agendas in the region, which is the result of a smart specialization process. In accordance with this process, 5 major areas of opportunity were identified and are now being developed. The first one is a creative district related to the so-called orange economy. The second one is a biopole related to life sciences and agro-industry. The third corresponds to a services hub for enterprises related to finance, logistics, and technology. The fourth is an advanced knowledge hub related to education, research, and development. And finally, the fifth is a sustainable region initiative related to water, energy, infrastructure, and utilities. Those areas of opportunity are best described by 17 cluster initiatives currently supported by the Bogota Chamber of Commerce, which correspond to a wide range of prioritized economic activities that include fashion and apparel, tourism and gastronomy, financial and logistic services, healthcare, pharma and cosmetics, software, information and technologies, creative and graphical industries, and dairy. Each of these cluster initiatives has determined a roadmap to increase the competitiveness of the corresponding economic sector and benefits from an institutional arrangement in which actions and projects are permanently discussed and executed with the assistance of public and private actors. However, with the difficulties arising from the pandemic, in the recent months, these roadmaps have shifted towards economic reactivation, privileging interventions related to science, technology, and innovation, business strengthening, human capital access, internationalization, logistics, and infrastructure. In the end, all of these efforts become part of a broader interinstitutional arrangement whose mission is to guarantee harmonious development between the city of Bogota and its region, called the Regional Competitiveness Commission, in which local and regional public authorities converge. So, in summary, Bogota is leading one of the most important productive development agendas in Latin America. The most prominent bets are related to this smart specialization process and the 17 cluster initiatives that have been prioritized. There is a whole institutional framework that supports the competitiveness roadmaps, as well as the reactivation agendas that we have set in place. That institutional framework is available for building commercial relations between the Western Cape and Bogota, Cundinamarca. Finally, we would be honored and thrilled to take this conversation forward with Wesgro and South Africa. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mateo. I think Ambassador Barahona has prepared a question especially for you. So let's welcome Ambassador Barahona for his question.
Thank you, Mateo. It's a pleasure to be here with you sharing this special seminar. I would like to ask you, thinking from the business perspective, how do you consider that South African companies could play a key role in Bogota development?
Ambassador Barahona, thank you for the question. I believe that South African companies could play a major role in the city's development by the means of strategic alliances with local companies, business partnerships or ventures, knowledge and technology transfer, and also investment, mainly in the areas of opportunity that we have just discussed. However, I believe your question will be best answered by the following presentation by Mrs. Mesa from Invest in Bogota.
Thank you so much, Ivan.
Thank you so much to Ambassador Barahona for this enlightening question, and also to Mateo Jaramillo for his presentation and remarks. And we want to tell to all our audience that we will be sharing some of these presentations so you can go in further details. So now let's move on to our next speaker. I am glad to introduce Ms. Luisa Fernanda Mesa. She's the Investment Promotion Manager at Invest in Bogota. Luisa Fernanda, in her position, is responsible for leading and executing the strategy of attracting foreign direct investment into the city of Bogota, which is the capital of Colombia. She holds a degree in business administration from CISA University, as well as a postgraduate degree in strategic marketing at the same institution. I would like to highlight that she has more than 18 years of work experience in multinationals organizations in areas of business development and market strategy. So we are very glad to have you here, Luisa Fernanda. Welcome with your presentation regarding investment opportunities in Bogota. Bienvenida, Luisa Fernanda.
Thank you, Ivan. Are you all hearing me correctly?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so thank you very much and good morning to everyone. It's really a pleasure to be part of this very important webinar. Also, thank you to my colleagues from the Embassy of Colombia in South Africa, to ProColombia's President Flavia Santoro, Monica Conde, Vice President of the Chamber of Commerce of Bogota, and also Mateo and our colleagues from Wesgro. Basically, in the next few minutes, I will make a very brief presentation in order to give the audience some insights and valuable information in terms of Bogota as an economic development and growth city, and all the potential sectors for investment that we have currently for the city as well. First of all, Invest in Bogota is a private and public partnership between the Bogota's Chamber of Commerce and the Bogota City of Government. We started operations nearly 14 years ago with three main drivers. Basically, our core mission is to attract foreign direct investment, very much like what ProColombia mentioned before. Basically, we are the marketing and sales team of the city and the region in order to understand any operations and any companies outside that would potentially have good business opportunities in our city and in our region. The second line of action is international positioning. This is everything that has to do with our marketing and communication and the selling of Bogota as a business and attractive city for investment. And finally, the business environment improvement, which basically measures and attracts and develops all the types of activities that we have to do to promote a good climate environment for the companies that are in Bogota and in the region as well. In general terms, Invest in Bogota helps investors in every stage of the investment cycle. From a very, very early stage, we travel into markets, we sit down with possible companies and investors and try to understand their business model, their business strategy, and attract those companies to look at Bogota and the region as a possible destination for their operations and their businesses. We do this by generating opportunity analysis, sector information, everything that has to do with numbers, with data, with growth, with performance, so that they have a full understanding of the business opportunities. Once those companies are able to develop their operations between Bogota and the region as well, we give them advice in their startup operations with access and articulation with possible providers, clients, and we help them along the way so that their business is successful as well. And also, in a third sense, we give these corporations and companies all the corresponding services in terms of aftercare services so that their businesses are doing well. They can connect to the local environment, to the local companies and international companies along the way. In general terms and in highlights, I wanted to mention that after 14 or 13 years of operations, Invest in Bogota, through its promotion activities, has been able to attract almost $3 billion of foreign direct investment into Bogota and into the region, with an excess of 46,000 direct jobs, and to date, more than 400 projects, with some of the highlights that you see on screen at this point, just to mention some of the most important companies that have current and ongoing operations in Bogota and in the region. Secondly, I would like to build and drill down with more specific information on why Bogota is a perfect location for investment opportunities. And we'll talk about the value proposition for the city as well. First of all, ProColombia and Mateo and Ivan and the ambassador already mentioned, but it's quite important that we take a good look and understanding on our strategic location. When you look at the map, Colombia is highlighted right at the center of the Americas, and Bogota is right at the heart of Colombia. This gives us access to a great number of markets, both in North America, South America, Europe, and connectivity into Asia and Africa as well. We have more than 15 free trade agreements that make accessible and possible that all goods and services are delivered into more markets at this point, with a growth of $43 trillion and 1.5 billion consumers, if you're looking at Colombia and Bogota specifically as an export platform. Strategic location, Bogota's airport is #1 in cargo movement of all of Latin America and #3 in passenger movement. We have more than 49 direct flights. Obviously, at this point, in terms of the pandemic, this has been reduced in terms of evaluating the advance and the progress in terms of the COVID-19. But in general terms, Bogota has more connectivity than any other of the airports and the countries in terms of Latin America as well. We are basically 5 hours away from the main cities in North America, 5 hours away from the main cities in South America, and basically 10 hours away from Europe as well. This gives us the access and availability to convert Bogota into a regional hub for multinational corporations as well. Moving on, just having a little bit of trouble. In terms of human talent, Bogota also has more than 4.6 million people in terms of young labor force that is ready to be part of companies that are coming in to establish new operations. We have more than 184,000 graduates per year that companies, when they seek new talented and skilled labor force, are basically drafted from these talented workers. 43% of our country's PhDs are located in Bogota cities, 37% of the country's active research groups, with 2 of the main top 10 universities in Latin America as well. Obviously, Bogota, being the capital city of Colombia, is not only the economic, political, and cultural epicenter of the country, but in terms of its performance in growth and economic development, there's some highlights that I want to share with you. At this point, Bogota and the region's GDP is around $105 billion. When we compare this number with other countries in Latin America, we can see that Bogota and its region, as a city, as a region, is greater than some of the economic numbers of other Latin American countries as well. 3.6 economic growth for Bogota last year. We account for 54% of the financial transactions in Colombia. We have around 11 million inhabitants in Bogota and the region, with 51% of that population being middle class. And our GDP per capita is around $10,000, $11,000 on a yearly basis, making that $3,000 above the average in the rest of Colombia. In terms of international rankings, I would not like to drill down on this, but basically, as Mrs. Flavia Santoro already mentioned, Colombia is a success story. When we look at international rankings for the city 15 years back, we were ranked number 15, number 16. When we look at the ratings year to date, we're a number 3 in top cities attracting foreign direct investment, with the highest number of M&As, with cities of the future giving us the 3rd place at this point. In terms of investment, let me just drill down on top of how investment looks in terms of the city. When we look at Bogota in the region, obviously our main investor in terms of country is the US, followed by Spain, by France, and other countries in Latin America. But when we look at these numbers in terms of regions, Europe becomes very important as a whole, with 44% of that investment in the region as well, and North America with 37% as well. In terms of sectors and opportunities, you might have seen this slide in Mateo's presentation as well. Invest in Bogota as being part of the Chamber of Commerce as well, is also embedded in the smart specialization of the city, which this public and private agenda gives us the capacity to look on a long term in terms of the sectors with most potential to drive foreign direct investment in that sense. However, Investing Bogota is focused in 5 main sectors at this point, with the most potential opportunities for doing business and for driving foreign direct investment. We have manufactured goods, creative industries, life sciences, IT, BPO, and obviously infrastructure at this point. In terms of life sciences, I would like to give you some of the highlights on why this is one of the top and fastest growing sectors within the region at this point. We have 4 different sectors that we promote proactively: healthcare services, pharmaceuticals, medical devices, and cosmetics. And some of the things that I would like to mention for the audience at this point. Colombia's health system is ranked number 1 in Latin America at this point, and is ranked number 22 worldwide, ranked by the World Health Organization. Our health expenditure as a percentage of our GDP is 6.8%, which is the 2nd largest sector in which the government expands. And the total expenditure in the healthcare system is $22 billion at this point. Some of the main highlights of some of the projects that we actually have in Bogota, which makes us a very, very important sector in terms of the amount of population with a universal coverage and access to the health care system, which makes this sector one of the fastest growing and with the top potentials of investing in operations at this point. The IT BPO, one of the top performing as well. We work in Invest in Bogota in three main areas of this very big sector. One of them is basically set in the IT and software development market, which is the fourth largest market in size in Latin America after Brazil, after Mexico, and after Argentina. When we look at the rate of growth of this sector in the last 5 to 6 years, we can see that this sector has grown 14% on average in the 5 years. And we expect it at this point, with the scenarios that we're looking for with the pandemic, to keep growing into 7% or 8% in the next coming years. Bogota accounts basically for 70% of the cluster in terms of Colombia for the IT market as well. In terms of BPO, also, Bogota is one of the most active sectors at this point. It's the third largest market in size in Latin America after Brazil, and we take a look at Central America as a whole. It's ranked number 3 in terms of development of global operations as well. And this sector also presents outstanding performance in terms of the numbers. 16% average growth rate in the last 5 to 6 years. And we expect also moderate in terms of the pandemic. We had expected to grow above 10%, but since obviously the dynamic in terms of the economic and global development, we expect that to keep growing in terms of a 6 or 7%. When you look at this and compare it into the GDP as a whole of growth of Colombia, we see that these sectors growth 4 or 5%, 4 or 5 times, greater than what the GDP for Colombia growth rate on a yearly basis is. And shared services, one also of a highly performance. We see a number, very, very high number of global multinationals coming into Bogota to establish their shared service operations. You can see the ranking: Sao Paulo, San Jose, Mexico City, and Bogota. Obviously, Sao Paulo leading shared service centers for basically international corporations, but also very large Brazilian corporations. But Bogota is outperforming this sector as well for other cities as well. Creative industries, one of the main and fastest growing sectors as well. This is due to basically a historical sector with very, very embedded and traditional economy for Colombia and for Latin America. Colombia has always been very well spoken in terms of audiovisual production. However, with the government policies and the government-led incentives at this point, we have the ability to understand that this is one of the sectors with more potential. One of the main measures in terms of the incentives form the central government is a new transferable tax rebate for 35% of the investment at this point in terms of audiovisual and video game productions in Colombia as well. Manufactured goods in terms of construction materials and food and beverage as well. Very large in terms of the capacity, capability, and local market, both Colombia with 50 million population and Bogota with 11 million population gives these two sectors the potential and the growth that they're expecting as well. And finally, last and not least, the infrastructure sector, which is very special in terms of Bogota and its region. Invest in Bogota also being part of the mayor's office. We promote and we go out and basically sell and merchandise these very high infrastructure projects that will be built in the next few years in Bogota and its region. Just to mention, one of the most important is Bogota's metro. The first metro line for Bogota has been awarded last year and will be start construction at the end of 2020. This is a $4.5 billion project. The regional tram, it's also an awarded project to connect some of the cities around Bogota, with a $1.5 billion expected capex at this project. But the most interesting thing here is the pipeline in terms of future projects that will be basically put out in terms of bidding process and constructions, with around $9 billion of expected capex. So there's several synergies and several potentials in terms of being part of these very important infrastructure projects as well. Just let me highlight some of the most important. Water treatment plant that will be basically put on open bidding process by the end of this year. Also a $1 million project, and several other APPs, public-private investment projects at this point that will be awarded and constructed by the end of this year as well. Let me just pass very quickly so that we can end the presentation. That's all for now. Thank you very much, Ivan. Mr. Ambassador, you have the mute. Mr. Ambassador, you have the mute. I can't hear you.
Thank you so much. Sorry. Can you hear me right now?
Yes.
Thank you
Mr.
for being part of this event, special event. I really would like to say that you gave us a really important fact that I didn't know, because Bogota is a huge city and it's a strategic position for all the continent. I would like to ask you a question from one of the attendees. Juan Carlos Villamizar wants to ask you, can you indicate which initiatives regarding the export of flowers to South Africa are in place currently? Cannot hear you. I cannot hear you.
Mr. Ambassador, can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, can you hear me right now? Because
yes, I'm hearing you a little bit.
Okay,
delayed.
It's from Juan Carlos Villamizar. It's in the chat. It's here. Can you indicate which initiatives regarding the export of flowers to South Africa are in place currently?
Okay, Mr. Ambassador, that is a question basically for ProColombia, which handles the exports. Invest in Bogota is focused basically on driving investment into the country and into the region. But we can give Juan Carlos at the end of the chat the number to establish communication from ProColombia to be very exact and very accurate with the answer at this point. Since it's not my specialty in terms of exports, we can deliver that questions by the end of the webinar with ProColombia.
I have another question. I heard that you say that we have special taxes from video games and something else. It was?
Yes, Mr. Ambassador. Basically, we have very good news for the international community in terms of audiovisual, video games, publicity, and music. We have new incentives that were approved by law from the main government, which are basically an effort to give a transferable tax with a 35% incentive, which means that companies bringing projects or investments to be produced or with post-production in Bogota or in the country, in any of the regions, in any of the cities, can apply to these incentives through a basic protocol and a basic manual that we will have to deliver. But once the package and the production project is approved, you get a 35% transferable tax back to the company as well. So basically, you win 35% of your investment in these areas.
It's really good. It's a really good strategy in order to get investment now.
Yes, correct, Ambassador. Very important.
Thank you, Luisa.
Obviously,
thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you for having me.
Continue. No, thank you.
Muchas gracias, Luisa Fernanda, Ambassador, for this very important question. I personally found very informative the presentation of Luisa Fernanda, and I hope that our South African guest will contact you to get further details regarding investment opportunities in Bogota. Furthermore, if you are interested in investing in Colombia, you can contact us at the embassy or in ProColombia so we can work together. Dear attendees, I would like to take this opportunity to remind you that you are more than welcome to post your questions and also to let us know where are you connected from. So let's move to our next speaker, and I am very happy to welcome our first speaker from South Africa, is James Milne, who is the head of Westgro's Investment Promotion Unit. So James, as a head of this promotion unit, he focused on attracting foreign direct investment into the Western Cape province, as well helping local companies in the region to grow and expand. He has more than 8 years of experience in strategic business support across multiple sectors. In 2019, as a matter of fact, James visited Colombia under a best practices mission, in which I'm very sure that you found the engagements to be extremely insightful and valuable for shaping your understanding of global best practices. So James, can you please share with us and with the audience your experience in Colombia and also the presentation that you have ready for today? Welcome.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Ivan. And first of all, I'd like to start off by thanking the Embassy of Colombia in South Africa, Ambassador Barahona as well, for putting together today's event. As you indicated, I was lucky enough last year to visit Colombia in Bogota, and I'd like to again extend my thanks to all of the representatives of the various agencies of ProColombia, of Invest in Bogota, and the Bogota Chamber of Commerce. I think they provided some fantastic and insightful presentations today, but they were also wonderful hosts when we spent our time in Bogota, and it really was a fantastic experience, and I'm hopeful that we can really continue to stimulate relationships between South Africa and Colombia, and in particular between Cape Town and Bogota. I'm going to start off by attempting to share a video. So let me just see if I'm able to do so. Right, so hopefully that allowed everyone to whet their appetites a little bit, and it also allowed me to slightly cheat in terms of the presentation process and allow the video to tell a bit of my story. But I'm going to quickly share my screen again and bring up a short presentation for today. So let me just bring up today's my presentation. Sorry, I see it's not coming up in full screen mode. Let me just try that again. Right, I believe the presentation is now working. So without any further ado, just to give you some initial context, my colleague will be speaking shortly as well. So I'm just going to give a short insight. Wesgro is a governmental agency. We are the official tourism, trade and investment promotion agency for the Western Cape region of South Africa. And so we share a broadly similar mandate to ProColombia, but for the specific region of Cape Town and the Western Cape. The focus of my presentation today is going to be mainly around the investment opportunities that exist here in the Western Cape. But I would just like to note up front that my colleague will be speaking next on export opportunities. But just as you can see from this slide, any work that we do as the Wesgro team is underpinned at all times by a data and business intelligence team that produces more than 100 reports a year on sectors, both locally and also looks specifically at opportunities across the African continent. And so I'd strongly encourage you to visit our website and just have a look at all of the data and research that we produce. It's all free to download. And our website is www.wesgro.co.za. Right, so what I'm going to do today is just very quickly, I know I don't have a lot of time, and hopefully the video already gave you some insights, but just share a short economic background relating to the local economy and key areas of opportunity that you can begin to explore. Very similar to Luisa, and I think you'll note that we certainly had some great learnings from working with Invest in Bogota. I'd just like to start off by giving an example of the Cape economy in perspective. So you'll see this is a slightly dated statistics from 2018, where South Africa is the second largest market on the African continent. But I think notably from our perspective, if you look at the Western Cape or Cape Town, you'll actually find that they are significant markets even on an African perspective. So I think normally when people look at the African continent, they're aware of exciting and growing economies like Ethiopia and Kenya, for example. But what they maybe aren't aware of is that a region within South Africa, such as the Western Cape, has a GDP that is almost the size of a country like Kenya or Ethiopia. So certainly what we'd like you to take away is that we're a region of significant size in terms of our own economic pull on the continent. And just around the region itself, so we're positioned in the bottom left-hand corner of South Africa. And certainly we see ourselves as an excellent destination for positioning a company headquarters. And there are various reasons for that. We have 3 deep water ports and large deep water ports, which give you good access, particularly again towards the rest of the continent. And I think this is a theme that you'll find coming up throughout my presentation and no doubt through my colleague's presentation as well. We also have the best ranked airports in Africa for the last 4 years. And most importantly, when we talk about human skills and human capital, we have 4 of the top universities on the African continent. So 4 universities that rank in the top 20 on the African continent, based here in the Western Cape region. 2 of those normally rank in the top 3 of the top 20 on the African continent every year. So if you look at GDP by sector, I think this is an interesting one, and hopefully you can you can see this clearly enough. I know the numbers and the actual information is quite small, but what I think is critical to take away here is that even though it looks relatively small, on the left-hand side, we have a very strong agriculture, forestry and fishery sector. It's a significant employer, and it's also a major exporter, not just across the world, but also to the rest of the continent. And that certainly means big potential opportunities for companies that are looking to invest here, but actually grow their export and growth potential across the continent. But I think what I would suggest is one of the most important takeaways looking at this graph is that our GDP in the Western Cape region is actually very much predominantly a services-based GDP. So unusual in the African context, where normally people, when they think about Africa and they think about countries in Africa, they know about how rich, resource-rich the African continent is, and how resource-rich certain cities are, and how reliant they often are in terms of their GDP on mining and minerals. But what you'll notice here is the mining and quarrying sector in the Western Cape region is particularly small, and actually what makes up the core of our regional GDP is services. And so again, from an investment perspective, there's significant opportunity that exists here to invest in the services space, and then also look at exporting those services across the world. In terms of our leading sectors, I'm going to go through them one by one. So first of all, I'm highlighting 3 sectors that have really made up the core of the local economy for many years. Some of these sectors more than 100 years that have been based here. Again, there's the agribusiness sector that's critical to our region. There's also a major retail sector, and those retailers that are shown there, you may not know the company names particularly well, but if you have the opportunity to do a bit of research on these companies, you'll see that these are companies that have grown from Cape Town into the rest of the African continent. And a lot of companies that we work with that are selling products like to set themselves up here in the Western Cape region so that they can work with those companies and leverage their supply chains to access the rest of the continent. Finally, we've got a very strong asset management space, and Cape Town was recently ranked the new financial hub on the African continent, overtaking Johannesburg last year. The second 3 sectors that I'm going to bring up are sectors that we see as the high growth, major opportunity sectors that exist within our region. So over the last few years, we've seen massive growth in the sustainable energy space or the green economy. And at the moment, we're busy designated a special economic zone focused on green technologies, which I'll touch upon later. We've also seen the tech sector see significant growth. We have just recently recorded another investment by Amazon Web Services, who continue to grow in our area. They now employ more than 3,500 people in the Western Cape region, and I think that's a great sign in terms of how they see the region and their growth intentions here in the tech space. Finally, in the BPO space or call centers, we have employment reaching upwards of 30,000 people in the city alone. And certainly we see ourselves as a space that provides significant cost advantages compared to other locations across the world in the BPO sector. Finally, the last 3 sectors I'm highlighting are sectors that have been governmental priorities for the last 5 years. So that's the oil and gas, agriculture, and tourism space. Tourism alone in our region employs more than 300,000 people. And so is, again, a very strong opportunity sector. Although, of course, in the current economic climate, it certainly is undergoing some severe pressure. But again, that presents certain opportunities for shrewd investors to potentially look at picking up assets. If we look at a quick breakdown of foreign direct investment into the region, I think from the top chart, what you'll notice is that the core investors into this region are predominantly based out of the UK and the United States, and then mainly around Western Europe. And finally, what we are seeing is an increase or an uptick in investment from China. Of course, what we'd love to see is to start seeing Colombia reflected on this chart at some point in time, assuming this process is successful. On the bottom chart, you'll see the FDI breakdown by sectors. And what you'll see on the far left is that the majority of projects that are flowing into our economy are based in software and IT services, business services, financial services. but the major investments in terms of CapEx and OpEx sit in terms of mainly in the energy space, so in either in renewable energies or in oil and gas investments. So again, I said earlier on that certainly the main and important theme in my presentation, and certainly I'm sure that of my colleague, is that the real opportunity from our perspective exists on the continent is in its entirety. So you'll see from the chart presented there that Africa at the moment is home to more than 1.1 billion people, but that's expected to reach more than 2.4 billion by 2050. And certainly various McKinsey reports over the last 10 years, almost every year, have highlighted that approximately 5 out of 10 of their fastest growing economies sit on the African continent. And what that means is that there's a huge consumer base that's growing, that's being uplifted all the time, and that's demanding products that range completely in terms of what they are and what people require. And what that means is that there's a huge opportunity for companies to take advantage of the Africa growth possibility. But our strong recommendation is that for companies to do that, they need to be based here on the continent. They need to understand the continent, and they need to have close access to the continent, which is what we can provide in terms of if you set up here in South Africa, and particularly in Cape Town and the Western Cape. Finally, I just wanted to touch quickly on some key sectoral opportunities for investment, and I've tried to highlight really why these are opportunity sectors. I think at the top, it's worth noting that just a week or two ago, the President of South Africa announced the launch of a $138 billion priority infrastructure development program. Those projects really range in terms of what they are, but I certainly recommend that if you're looking at engaging in major infrastructure support projects and public-private partnerships, then it's worth checking out what the presidency has announced already in terms of projects, and expect that to ramp up over time. In terms of the agribusiness sector, I've already touched on the fact that the Western Cape as a region is the largest exporter to the rest of Africa. And we're already seeing a number of exciting agri-tech startups spring up based around that sector, and some quite significant and serious acquisitions taking place. Some of our startups are actually growing into major economies such as the United States. So that's quite exciting. Again, the green economy, already home to the majority of renewable-based companies and manufacturers in South Africa. And again, what's very important is that we're in the process of establishing a special economic zone with a green tech focus that offers investors, exciting prospects such as reduced tax rates, bulk infrastructure, and a variety of support structures from government. And so again, a huge opportunity that literally is taking place right at this moment. From a tech perspective, we're a growing and leading digital hub on the continent. A lot of our companies, again, are achieving strong global success. And I think what's attracting people here is that you can obtain high quality software developers for approximately 40 to 80% less than in developed markets. Similar to Bogota, we've also got a very strong call center space, and we, as you can see from the graph, you can achieve quite strong cost reductions in terms of capacity. But I think it's also an excellent place to be targeting or supporting European-based operations if you have companies that have such operations. And then finally, I think it's worth noting our niche manufacturing sector. So we do have an industrial development zone that focuses on ship repairs and oil and gas. And recently, we've seen a revival in our clothing and textile sector that's strongly supported by governmental incentives and policy. So I think this is the high-level highlights, but obviously, what's quite critical is that I look after the investment promotion unit, and very similar to how the presentation that Luisa provided, our role is really to help your business go through the investment process. We work with you to understand what your requirements are. We work with you to plug you into the local economy and really understand what are the opportunities in the sector that you're looking at. And so really our approach is to first understand what your needs are as an investor, and then work with you to make sure that your investment works within our economy. And so I'd just like to end on that note by inviting you to contact us at Westgrow, and we really look forward to working with any potential investors who are on this call today. Thank you very much.
Dear James, thank you for being part of this seminar. It's a pleasure to host you here. First, I would like to say that I've been in Cape Town. It's a fantastic city. It's a really beautiful place. It's one of the most beautiful cities in the world. I would like to invite all the attendees, the audience, to go and visit Cape Town. It's fantastic, unbelievable city, beautiful. I would like to ask you, what will be the sectors with more potential for Colombia investors and why?
Thank you, Ambassador, and especially for your kind words about Cape Town. And I can only echo your words. We really invite everyone to come and visit and see for themselves. In terms of sectors for Colombian investors, again, my approach would be to look at the Africa opportunity as a whole. So it's to look at positioning yourself in Cape Town, but to take advantage of the complete African opportunity. And from my perspective, I think there's a few options there. I think there's strong opportunities in the agricultural and agribusiness space, particularly in the green economy through the provision of renewable energies and renewable energy infrastructure. And then finally, particularly picking up on Luiza's presentation, where she spoke about tech, BPO, and the creative industries. I think there's a very close link there between Bogota and Cape Town in terms of the cities themselves and the approach that they're both taking in building up these really exciting and innovative new sectors. And so I think there's some really interesting and exciting opportunities for collaboration between Colombians and South Africans, but also particularly between Cape Town and Bogota.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, James. I would like also to endorse Ambassador's invitation to all our attendees. Cape Town is such a beautiful city and is probably one of the best places for now for Colombian investors and Colombian companies to establish some operations due to those opportunities that you have greatly explained to us today. Thank you, James. Thank you, Ambassador Barahona, for your question. And now let's continue with our agenda. I would like to welcome our next South African speaker, Keenan Duni, who is the head of trade promotion in Westgrove. Keenan holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in political science, specializing in international relations and African economic development from York University in Canada. He currently manages Westgrove's trade unit, which is responsible for growing the exports of goods and services from the Western Cape to key international markets, but also managing the Export Advanced Program, which is intimately involved in training companies to export and gain international market access, also international experience. So please welcome Kenan, the floor is yours. Kenan, I think, Dinan, we cannot hear you. Dinan, can you please check your microphone? Let's try again. Maybe we are facing some technical issues with our speaker, Dinan Kuni. Now, let's try again. Well, let's try with Dinan, if you can try to rejoin the platform. In the meantime, I would like to inform all of you that we have been taking notes with appreciation all of your questions that you have been posting in the chat. And we are going to the Q&A session after Dinan and our last speaker, who is also from South Africa. Let's try, Dinan, if your microphone. Dinan, can you hear me? Yes, you can. So can you please try to exit the platform and join again, please? Thank you, Dinan. Okay, so in the meantime, I would like to remind you that this webinar is jointly organized by the Bogota Chambers of Commerce, and Westgro, the Embassy of Colombia in South Africa. This was an idea that was born since Ambassador Barahona arrived in South Africa with the main objective to bring together Colombian and South African companies. And now with the pandemic, which has proven us that we need to work together and to explore those markets that are sometimes far away from our normal markets. And that's why we are pleased today to host all of you and also to welcome and to contact the Embassy, Westgro, and the Bogota Chambers of Commerce if you like to have further information. So now we have back Dinan Cooney from Cape Town. Dinan, welcome.
Hi, Ivan. Can you hear me now?
Perfect. We can hear you. Please.
Perfect. Sorry about this. It's raining and cloudy here, so it may be the weather.
I can imagine.
Okay.
Dinan, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes. Please continue with your presentation.
Okay, great. So I'm just going to share with you some of the key strategic initiatives of Westgro's export unit, give you a strategic overview, and then also alert you to some of the import opportunities from the Western Cape. Of course, Westgro's export unit's mandate is to promote exports from the Western Cape, but we work very closely with the Cape Chamber to assist you in terms of importing into the Western Cape. So we would facilitate that relationship for you. But overall, you can see that Africa is our main export market, with 45 billion rand worth of products and services going into the rest of the continent. Africa has actually overtaken Europe over the last 5 years or so as our key export market. We have 36 billion rand of product going into Europe, Asia at 21 billion rand, and we've seen some significant growth in the Americas, particularly the United States with 13 billion rand, and then we are seeing growth in Oceania, particularly Australia and New Zealand with 2 billion rand. This next slide shows the top import products. You can see that we import a lot of crude oil, which is refined, a lot of refined petroleum as well, whiskeys, medicaments, frozen fish, poultry, meat, preserved sardines, beer, men's clothing, women's clothing, all coming from Asia, particularly China. We also, of course, the next or the bottom section of the slide shows you our export products, our top export products. And this is where our mandate lies. We export a lot of refined petroleum. And then the rest of this export basket is pretty much in the agro-processing or agricultural space. So a lot of citrus fruit, wine, grapes, apples, pears, quinces. Steel is at number 6. Fruit, vegetable juice, engine parts, fish fillets, and then yachts and luxury boats have entered our top 10 list of export products as well. In terms of the core functions of the unit, we are mandated to facilitate and promote the exports of goods and services from qualified companies in the Western Cape. We also have an equally important mandate of promoting outward foreign direct investment into the rest of Africa. So we have an OFDI mandate. And to James's point earlier, we can certainly assist in terms of accessing the rest of Africa, not only from a trade or export point of view, but also from an investment point of view. Some of the other services include business-to-business facilitation. So if you were looking to meet with any particular exporter in the Western Cape, we would set up those meetings for you. We also provide companies with the ability to access financing from our national government departments. Those include the DTI, well, particularly the DTI in terms of their trade financing mechanisms. We are heavily involved in buyer and company matching. We have a very formidable research unit at Westgrow. So if there's any market research or sector research that is required, we can certainly assist with that as well. In terms of our promotion services, we do outward selling missions. And in fact, before COVID hit, we were running about 40 to 45 international trade missions a year. We've now moved that into a virtual space. We were also doing quite a few inward buying missions. So we would certainly welcome inward delegation from Colombia looking to source product from the Western Cape. The inward buying missions have also now moved into a virtual space. Then we also do very specialized advisory services. We can give you access to strategic networks like the Cape Chamber or any of our export councils. We also have a dedicated export training unit or subunit that is housed within the export unit, and that training program is focused on technical export development training. We do one-on-one mentoring services. We give companies knowledge of export finance management, export costing methods, and logistical training. The strategy that's driving our operations really is to improve the export enabling environment of the Western Cape. It's around market prioritization, diversification, and access. We definitely want to push more product or more of a variety of products from the Western Cape. As I mentioned earlier, we're very strong in agriculture and agro-processing, but we also now are driving a trade in services strategy, because if you look at the economic activity around Cape Town particularly, it's in services, it's in technology, it's in agri-tech, and it's definitely in BPO. So we definitely want to push more products out of the Western Cape from our agro-processing stronghold. We're also looking to strengthen our B2B trade seminars, exhibitions, and expos, and strengthen those platforms as we move forward. I mentioned the export training, and that's really to develop and increase the export capacity of companies in the Western Cape. Another point to mention is that we deal with all types of companies. So we are constantly engaging the top 100 Western Cape exporters. We work with the export councils and various industry bodies. Ultimately, our goal aligns to the national government's strategy, which is to retain, expand, and grow new exporters, which is the REN approach. These are some of our priority sectors. I mentioned agriculture, agro-processing, agribusiness, furniture. We also want to push manufactured and value-added products from the Western Cape. And I'm very pleased to see that catamarans and luxury boats have now entered our top 10 list of exports. We are starting to gain traction in green industries. Cosmetics, natural ingredients, and organics have become a new sector priority for us. I mentioned services, which is particularly in the space of ICT, BPO, and agri-tech. We have a focus on wholesale and retail, clothing, textiles, leather, footwear, boat building and auxiliary services, and health tech is now a very key export for us going forward. So why Colombia for us? If you look at your imports, it's very much around petroleum oils, and we're very strong in the import of crude oil, but also the export of petroleum oils. We've also noticed that beauty and makeup preparations have become an important import for Colombia. And the Western Cape is particularly strong in that sector, given our natural ingredients that go into the beauty products. And then also we're seeing a significant growth in terms of your imports of motor vehicle parts, and especially other agricultural, horticultural, forestry, poultry, and insecticides. These are also sectors, especially motor vehicle parts, that we're very strong in, and I'd like to see us gain some traction on those fronts as well. I did mention the services imports, with Colombia importing a lot of travel types of services in 2018 at the value of 4.83 billion. There's a lot of transport services that have been imported into Colombia. We'd like to work with you on that as well. Other business services came in to the equivalent of 13.4% of total service imports. So we'd like to work with you to see what those other business services are, and perhaps work on joint initiatives to boost services imports, both from the Western Cape, but also look at working with Colombia on other types of services initiatives. As you may know, the Western Cape is very strong in financial services, and Colombia is a leading import of financial services, also telecommunications, computer and information services. Another key factor that I wanted to note is that Colombia is also very dominant in the region, with a number of FTAs with countries in South America, including Mexico, Chile, and then you have free trade agreements or EFTAs with countries in Europe. And of course, we are looking to gain access into those markets as well. These are just a very quick summary of the growth imports that are coming into Colombia. And you can see again, beauty and makeup preparations are growing at 7.42%, insecticides at 16.5%, chemical fertilizers at 2.5%, parts of motor vehicles growing at 48.2%, and then agricultural products at 41.7%. So definitely there has been growth in a few sectors that we are very dominant in, and we'd like to see how we can work with you in growing those. But then for Colombia itself, exporting into the Western Cape, as I said, we would pull in the Cape Chamber to work with you to see how we could grow imports from Colombia into the Western Cape. That is it from me, Ivan. I'll stop there, and if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you, Dina. That's an amazing presentation. I would like to ask you, because many Colombians want to import wines. You know that you have a really, really amazing wines in Cape Town and around the Cape Town, and they want to find support from you how to export from South Africa to Colombia wines.
Yes, as I said, Ambassador, it's a bit tricky for us because our mandate is exports, but we certainly can reach out to the export councils, to the industry bodies and the Cape Chamber, who we work very closely with. We can look at what the opportunities are, and then maybe have a very strategic sort of focus effort in terms of how we can work with you to drive that initiative forward.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you, Dina, for your presentation, and also to Ambassador Barahona for your question. We also hope that our attendees will feel encouraged to increase the bilateral trade between Colombia and South Africa. We can work as a complementary economies. So, ladies and gentlemen, our last speaker is also from South Africa. Please let's welcome Mr. Zach Bart. He is the Managing Director of Westphalia Limited, company based in Midrand, South Africa. Zach Bart will present us the successful case of this South African company with operations in Colombia. Zach, bienvenido, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Gracias, Ivan. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, and thank you to everybody for this opportunity, and greetings to everybody in Colombia. I would like to share the screen. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes, we can now, Zach.
Okay, thank you very much. So we've heard this afternoon about the lovely cities of Bogota and Cape Town, but today I'm going to take you and tell you the story about Westphalia's wonderful success story in Colombia, in some of the smaller towns. So Westphalia is an avocado specialist, and what brought us to Colombia is that Colombia was starting to produce Hass avocados, which are in demand in the world. But not only are they in demand, but Colombia had a very unique season of production of avocados round about August to February, which is a time when the world has a shortage of Hass avocados. So Westphalia started to explore in Colombia. We in 2012 exported the first ever Hass avocados from Colombia to Europe. It was a raging success. And from there, we decided that we would continue to help the industry develop, but we wanted to invest and become farmers of avocados in Colombia. So here is our story. Basically, the area where we have invested in is in southeast Antioquia, which is one of the provinces of Colombia, for those that have not been there. And we have operations near a small town called Sonson, which was the former, I believe, almost capital of the province. But it had lost its shine, so we were very happy to go into a town and introduce avocados, the Hass avocados. You can see the photos of our plantings in the area. From the plantings where we developed around 250 hectares of Hass avocados, we built a state-of-the-art packing facility, which is one of the best in Latin America for avocados, and it is equipped to pack and prepare the avocados for shipment to Europe, North America, and now more recently China and Japan, where Colombia has been very fortunate, thanks to the Colombian government, getting market access to these markets. So we commissioned the pack house just more than a year and a half ago. For future growth, you can see the mountains in the part of Colombia where avocados grow. There's a lot of potential for expansion. The whole world is looking at Colombia, which is set to become one of the new major world forces in avocados. And Westphalia is really proud to have been there at the birth of the industry, to help it develop quickly and to be part of it and to remain part of it. And lastly, but not least, we're very happy to work with the people of Colombia, and we have a very positive experience of all parts of our adventure into Colombia. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Zach. It's a pleasure to have you here. I would like to ask you, how do you feel about to invest in Colombia? And you have been many times in Colombia, and sometimes people don't know what is real Colombia. I would like to explain. I would like to tell about your experience to being here in Colombia.
So my experience, I cannot say any bad words about Colombia. It's been a fantastic experience. Number one, the people, very, very friendly people, hardworking, intelligent, very warm, and very happy to help you with everything. And a beautiful scenery in Colombia. So we have had a very positive experience where we cannot say one word about anything unpleasant. It's safe. It's very safe. And it's a lovely place to go for business and for holiday too. So.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for investing in Colombia.
Thank you for looking after us in Colombia. Thank you, Colombia.
Thank you, Zach Bart, for your presentation, and thank you, Ambassador Barahona. So we are finished with all our speakers. So now let's open the Q&A session. But before, I would like to thank to the team from Invest in Bogota and Cámara de Comercio de Bogota for helping me in choosing randomly some of the questions that our audience has been posting in the chat. So I have the first question. It goes to Ambassador Barahona. And the question is, how could you describe the current relations between Colombia and South Africa, and what should be done to improve the bilateral trade?
Thank you, Ivan. It's a really good question. Colombia and South Africa are currently enjoying the best relations in the history. I would like to tell you that before the pandemic, we were working in the first state visit of the president of Colombia, Iván Duque, to South Africa. Will be the first time in the history that one president of Colombia visit South Africa. We are working with the Minister Pandor and the Minister Bloom with the Foreign Affairs in the first bilateral consulations. I think when the pandemic ends, we're gonna do it. We wanna re-agenda about if we can do it. I think the relations are really good right now. We are working so hard. We are signing an MOU between the both 4IR Industrial Revolution Center in Colombia and South Africa. We are working on it, and with this MOU, we want to bring opportunities to all the people in both countries. We are working in this kind of events. We are working to develop a directory with all the Colombians that we have in South Africa, because we have a lot of Colombians with business, and we want to all they can connect each other and trying to find opportunities. We are working so hard, but the relation right now is so good. Thank you, Evan.
Thank you, Ambassador. And the next question comes from Factoria Entertainment and goes to, I believe, to James from Westgrove. And the question is there any information about film production in South Africa?
Thank you, Ivan. Yes, I can confirm that Westgrove in fact has the mandate for film promotion in the Western Cape region, and so we'd be very glad to connect and provide more information. I think the easiest step I can recommend is if you can just send me a follow-up email requesting information. You can just send it to very easy, James, JAMES at Westgrow, WESGRO.co.za. You can also look at our website, www.westgrow.co.za. There is a film tab there, and you can download information from that tab as well.
Thank you, James. And this is very important because remember that in Ambassador Barahona welcoming remarks, he was talking about the orange economy and that we cannot live without culture, especially during the pandemic. So this is a very important question. And I would like to go to the next question. Is from Ensamo Mjoli. And the question is, how long does it take to import, air and ship products from Colombia to South Africa? Is there a platform to assist? I believe that this question can go to ProColombia, but I have been informed that due to previous arrangements, the president of ProColombia is not in this moment in the platform, but I'm more than happy to give an feedback to this question. And due to the geographic position of Colombia, we can export our products from the port of Cartagena to the port of Durban or Cape Town in South Africa. It will take around 14 days with some scales sometimes in Spain or in Gabon, but usually takes 14 days. If it's by air, it can take up to 1 or 2 days because as our presentation from Invest in Bogota, El Dorado International Airport that serves the city of Bogota is the first in Latin America in terms of cargo. So it's very important to point out that. And due to time restraints, we are going to forward all your questions to our speakers, and our speakers will eventually contact you to the rest of our attendees that have been posting your questions. So I would like to thank Ambassador Barahona, to James for your answers, and then we can move now to our closing remarks of our event. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our webinar. I wish to thank all the participants for this very fruitful discussion that has been made possible because of the large number of participants and also because of the excellent quality of the presentations and the pertinent contributions from one of every of our speakers. May at this point thank again Invest in Bogotá for hosting us in their platform, to the Embassy of Colombia, Cámara de Comercio de Bogotá, Westbro, and also to the President of ProColombia for honoring us with her presence today. Let me attempt to summarize the broad themes that which I believe came up in today's proceedings. To begin with, it appears that the world is facing an unforeseen circumstances and the economies are in critical recessions. It appears, as mentioned by Ambassador Barahona, that there are some key priorities for the economic recovery. The fundamental questions to my mind are, how therefore can these 5 key priorities help to address the question of integration between Colombia and South Africa at trade level? Furthermore, I observed that a number of speakers have pointed out that both countries have the potential to provide many substantial benefits to developing an economic recovery as a whole. In particular, presentation of Ms. Flavia Santoro, President of ProColombia, who fantastically present the potential sectors that we can explore between the two countries. I think that the point has been made clear that the process of trade diversification can be a great benefit between Colombia and South Africa, as introduced by Mateo Jaramillo in his presentation. Additionally, we had a very interesting discussion on the subject of investment opportunities. It is clear that we need to undertake work on how to ensure that investments can be a useful tool for integration and economic recovery into both countries, Colombia and South Africa. And also, in this respect, I found the presentation of Ms. Luisa Fernanda Mesa from Invest in Bogotá. Her comments were very useful, and notably her linkage of the issue of how investment can profit our communities. I also note the increasing importance of preferential market access in the context of regional trading agreements of South Africa that were mentioned by James and Dinan from Westbrook. I strongly think that the seminar has revealed some of the thinking about how economic recovery might be developed and interpreted into the future. One suggestion is never a possible move away. We need to take into account this information so that might constructively explore how business and investment opportunities can be addressed. And these opportunities has been perfectly shown by Zach Bart from Westphalia Limited, and you could see how important it is to also consider investments in other countries. I think, to conclude, that the best tribute I can give you is to say that the points raised today will be a very valuable contribution to the work of all the organizations involved today in this webinar. And that, as a first step, we will be an input into the work of the development of matchmaking meetings, so we can put together companies and persons who registered to this event. You will be receiving shortly a questionnaire in order to make sure that you will be contacted by the right organization. And let me close by expressing our thanks again and appreciation to our speakers for their time. Many others here contributed as well, and we want to say thank you. Also, thank you to our attendees for giving part of your valuable time to be with us today. Thank you so much. Bayadanki, Nabonga Kaku, muchas gracias. Adiós.
Hi, let me show you a special place. I'm going to talk to you about that place in Latin America, capital of Colombia. That country you might have heard mentioned in the news and in the movies. That country has now changed. And its capital, Bogota, well, it's what makes it shine even more. Bogota is a big city. And I mean big because there are more than 11 million of us. We have big dreams, projects, and companies, as well as big festivals and big mountains. We also have big talent. We are the region's entrepreneurship capital, the continent's new business hub, and a UNESCO City of Music. Because on top of being kind and friendly, every day our people show their ability to work on innovative and creative ideas that transform the world. Today, we are ready to keep growing and welcome other great companies so that we can do things better together.
In the last few years, we've received over 1,500 foreign companies,
such as Scotiabank, Medtronic, H&M, Amazon, L'Oreal, and Diageo, amongst others, that through their capabilities, technologies, and by generating high-quality employment, have helped the economy to keep growing so that more companies, tourists, and students come to Bogota. And like all good Latinos, we know how to enjoy life.
The best Latin nightlife and live music, world-class restaurants, 6 open-air festivals of different music styles, professional film, music, arts, fashion, and food markets.
Hey, because here we call chicken soup ajiaco, cheese buns almojábana, and buses, well, Transmilenio. I would like to show you more things, but I know you don't have that much time. That's why I'd like to invite you to discover more about us and see that what I'm telling you is true.
That's in the words of those who dare to do business with us.
Those who set out on an adventure to explore, discover, savor, and have fun in Bogota. We are here to help you set up in Bogota, succeed in business, and discover the huge opportunities that the city holds. And this is our team. Say hi, guys.
The best partner you can find.